Beyond the Clef is presented by Director's Choice.
Welcome to Beyond the Clef. I'm your host, David, and I'm here with a great friend of mine, Dana Pradervand, and you are at Oak Ridge High School Band.
That's correct.
I almost said Judson High School Band because I student taught with Dana way
That was
back.
a long time ago.
Way back in the day now, I feel like. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well,
I love living in Houston.
Yeah,
I finished my fourth year.
Oh, wow, okay.
Missed the people in San Antonio, but it was kind of cool to have this opportunity. So,
Right,
yeah.
and you're a Houston
And it's great to
girl.
see you. I am a Houston girl.
Kingwood High School grad,
That's
right?
it, Kingwood High School grad. So, and then came up here for school at Tech and
Right.
ended up back home. So it's been awesome.
Sure. So we were talking beforehand about what you do in your program with leadership, and we were discussing that you said your students come up with the direction of the program. Tell me more about that. That's really interesting to me.
Absolutely. I'm a huge advocate of student involvement and student leadership. I think that that's the absolute key to getting buy-in to your program. And so we spend a lot of time with our students and our student leaders developing not just their leadership skills, but giving them the opportunity to set the goals for our program every year and the direction that they want to see a program go. And we have a 3-day sort of process that we take them through that develops, number one, them as a student leadership team, and then we go into, okay, how do we develop the goals for our program this year? And we always start by making sure that they understand what the staff goals are. We do the same sort of process with our staff every summer, and then again at the end of marching season where we sit down and go, okay, what were the good things that happened this year or through this process? What were the things that we want to improve on? All right, now how do we make that happen? Okay.
So the day one you start with telling the kids about the staff goals.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then we send them, then we take them through really a 3-step process. They have a worksheet that they start, and there's 3 parts to the worksheet. The first one is, tell me the pros and cons of past leadership teams. And we go through that, of what their experiences were. Some of them had already been leaders, some of them have never been leaders. And so we're like, okay, we see the pros and cons of that. Pick your best adjective that describes each one of those categories. If you had one word to describe the best thing about being a student leader in the Oak Ridge Band, it would be blank. If you have the worst thing, what would it be? And then through that, we go, okay, now let's decide in a year from now what our students are going to say about you as a student leadership team. And we lead the discussion through that. That takes a better part of a half a day. And then we go on and do some other activities, and we come back the next day and we do the same thing with our band program. Tell me what the pros about being in the Oak Ridge Band program is. Tell me what the things you'd like to improve on. And there's a lot of discussion on that. And then when that's done, you get one-word answers. We circle the top 5 in each of those categories. And the pros become our wish list, and the cons become our reality list, because that's really the state of the union.
Right.
And from there, we divide the kids up into groups. For instance, I had 36 student leaders this year, so a group of 6. They get 45 minutes in their small groups, and they're to come up.
Do you pick the groups, or do they
Nope,
pick
they
them?
pick the groups,
Okay.
and then they're to come up with a list of goals, each group. This is what we want to see happen for this year. Then they do a presentation to each, to the entire leadership team, and then we have our drum major. Then I give them 3 stickers, and they go around to all the 6 posters, and they vote on which ones they think are the best goals. We have our drum majors total them up, then we bring them back out and go, this was the number 1 most popular idea, and then we have to really discuss if it's really a goal or if it's really a strategy to a goal.
Okay,
And
talk about the difference there that you would.
Well, a goal would be we would like to increase individual musicianship by making more people participate in the all-state process. That's a goal. A strategy would be we want to make sure that everybody learns their chromatic scale by September 2nd, kind of thing.
Okay.
That's not really, it's a goal, but it's a strategy that will get you to the
I see.
to the goal that you're looking for. This year, they got really lofty. They were like, we want a new way to develop our individual musicianship. So they came up with this chamber music contest that we're gonna implement in the spring. It was their idea. They wanted to be able to play music that wasn't on the UIL list for solo and ensemble. And they wanted to do small chamber groups and have a forum in which to perform that and also compete in that. So we're going to develop that for the spring, but that was their idea.
Wow.
So it's stuff like that.
And
it's
so that's
really cool.
day one, or that's the 3 days?
That's over the 3 days.
That's what you
we
develop,
come home
okay.
with our list of goals. And then what they will do next week when we start, they'll get up and they'll present them not only to the students, but they'll present them at the first Booster Club meeting.
Oh, okay.
And go,
all right.
these are our goals. And we make posters and hang them in the band hall, and that just sort of guides us for the whole year. And it's really, really interesting to see every year sort of the personality of the team and what they come up with. But
Wow.
it's been really successful.
It really gives them buy-in. Now, do you feel like when you have the leadership team decide that and they present that to the student body, how does the student body then take ownership of that as well?
Well, when they do their presentations, they can't just present the goal. They have to come up with the strategies in which to reach those goals.
Okay.
And so then we do check-ins, like, okay, for instance, I said the chamber music thing is going to be a big deal. So about November, we'll start going, all right, remember, look at goal number 3. This is something we want to do. So who's in? Who wants to participate? Okay, great. We got our list of who wants to participate. Let's pick music. Then we'll check in again in January, because obviously this is something we're going to do in the spring. How many of you have met with your groups yet? So we do periodic check-ins, and actually the student leaders direct that too.
Okay.
They'll do the check-ins on that.
Well, that's nice, because if you put it on them, then they're kind of
Absolutely.
taking that task
They're
off
responsible for it.
off your plate, and you're just kind of making sure that they're going to do
Absolutely.
their thing. Now, you've mentioned the chamber music program and what your goal was there, and that was your students this year or last year had developed that, you said?
No, they want to develop it for this year.
Oh, okay.
They want another venue other than UIL Solo and Ensemble to perform in small groups.
Now, what happens, and maybe you've had this experience or maybe not, but what happens in the case that maybe this goal was not or isn't going well, or in the middle of the year you're finding out that it's really kind of going south? What do you do at that point, or what have you done?
Well, we have weekly student leadership meetings, and actually that's some of the best ways to learn is when you don't reach that goal, or that you realize that goal is really not going the way you want it to. That's a perfect learning opportunity to go, okay, now what do we do with this? Say we didn't reach the goal that we wanted to. How far did we get? What worked in the way we were doing it? What went wrong? Why didn't we get there? Okay, well then that becomes an area that we look at, and perhaps there's another goal that comes out of that.
Okay.
So
Transition it.
yeah, so it's and we in our program don't ever talk about failing to reach a goal. It's that we just haven't gotten to that goal yet.
Right.
And so it may show up the next year, or it may be reassessed and reworded.
And what is your direct role in the leadership team? Do you do that part, or you're obviously involved in it, but
Yeah.
on the weekly meetings, is it you? Is it an assistant? Is it how does
No,
that?
I direct the discussion.
Okay.
Basically, I'll start the discussion, and I'll ask leading questions. Sometimes help interpret their comments.
Sure.
And things, but it's really cool to see the pathways that they end up taking. Kids are smart.
Yeah.
And music kids are really smart, and
Right.
so it's really fun to see them work through that.
I feel like the best times that I've ever had with my students in my career so far have been when I got out of the way and let the students be their own
Absolutely.
thing. And that's such an interesting thing that I've learned, and I'm still learning.
Well, and I think it's okay to let the students decide the direction of your program to an extent.
Sure.
I mean, I think a lot of people are afraid to give student leaders enough responsibility, and I think it's especially important at middle school. It's absolutely doable in a middle school situation too, and it's just great training.
Right.
So I love it.
Well, we have to now talk a little bit about your leadership in students that are a different variety. So again, like I mentioned, I student taught with you, and I learned so much just about, I mean, obviously as one does, but it really has shaped me as a band director. And one of the great things, and I have to brag on you a little bit, one of the great things that you did was set me off on the right path. You didn't micromanage and teach me, this is what you need to be doing here, this is what you need to be doing there. You gave me a set of strategies and a thought process. And then now I've gone out, and I've developed since, of course, my own way of doing things or my own ideas upon that, but it really set me in the right direction. And you told me you had 8 student teachers last year?
Yes, 8 student teachers.
So how do you
yes.
develop that sense in your student teachers now, especially if they're coming through in and out very quickly?
Well, we and we meaning my staff and I, they're adjunct staff members. So we give them 2 days to observe, and it's really just to get used to the schedule. And then they are staff members, and they will get in front of every class. They will have responsibilities with every aspect of our program except parent conferences or things like that, although they sit in on those because that's important too. I give them as much time as they want to be in front of a class and what they feel comfortable doing, and I'll let that go for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then I get to decide what they want to do. And it's wonderful because they participate in the process. They present their lesson plans, and sometimes they work great and sometimes they don't. And when they don't work great, we discuss it, and I let them go back and try it again. I don't dictate a lot of that. They do.
I remember.
And it's wonderful.
I remember failing quite miserably with Handel and the Strand, a Granger piece.
But you went back the next day, right?
I did.
There
I
you
did.
go.
And
yeah.
One of the great things that I thought whenever you did structure everything for me, right off the get-go, was always telling me to dive in and don't ever be afraid to just start. Going in, there was no way I could have been comfortable leading a flute sectional. But if you came to me and said, do this flute sectional, the idea was go do it. Because you know what? There's something in that. There's something in that learning process too. And I'm pretty sure now on the other end, I wasn't going to damage anything. I think you knew that I can go in and be myself and work in that, and then come back and fail, and then redo it if I needed to. And that was a safe structure that you create for your student teachers, and I think it's been really great.
I think that's hugely important to instill in a young teacher, because I think the biggest problem with young teachers is their confidence level. They come from their colleges and their university where they're accomplished musicians, and they're sort of the top of their part of their education at that point, and they're coming into public education, and essentially they're a freshman.
Yeah.
They're a freshman
I always say
nothing.
that with
and it's okay that they know that.
8th graders. Happens seniors and seniors in college, and it always happens.
And every time you have a first year.
New first year going, and then you're a little baby again, or
And
the
it's
puppy.
okay.
You used to call me the puppy.
The puppy.
You're just
And
a puppy. It's okay.
And everybody loves puppies, don't they? See? So there you go. Now, I think that's really important, and it's okay. It's okay to not know.
Right.
It's not okay to not know and not do anything about it, but it's okay to not know.
Right.
And as long as we try to give them the resources to find out where to go when they not know.
Exactly.
And
I really like, again, you said that you like to make them a part of your staff, and that's what I felt when I student taught with you. I was another director. I was not the student teacher. I was another director in my responsibilities, and I think at that point I was, if I remember right, the only student teacher when we were at Judson. But and I take that same approach with my student teachers when they come in, and I assign them classes, and I assign them parts of stuff, and I think that's a really important thing that sometimes people leave out. And there's not always an opportunity to do that, but I think if you have 2 or 3 at a time, obviously you're doing something right, and giving those kids, I say, their responsibilities.
It was really fun this year because we did have at one point 3 at the same time. And so what do you do with 3 student teachers at a time? Well, we took our 4th band, who was getting ready for UIL, and each one of them took one of our UIL pieces. This was at the beginning of the semester, and I said, you're going to work it up. And so they each had their piece that they had to take from beginning to end and learn how to prepare a band for UIL. And so they were essentially the directors for that 4th band. And
which I always say, if you could teach that band, you can teach any band almost, because the problems that you have to go through and getting engaged kids in there is sometimes it's the scale jail.
No, well, you got to roll your sleeves up and you got to teach. And they did, but that's how we treated that. And they were responsible for the section rehearsals. They were responsible for, and they would rotate. It was funny, I had a brass student teacher, a woodwind student teacher, and a percussion student teacher. So it was perfect.
Yeah.
The first time that percussionist stood in front of a woodwind sectional, he was very uncomfortable. But by the time he got through student teaching, he can step in front of any section rehearsal and be just fine. And that's what that's about. And, you know, we monitor them every class period. They would come to us at the end. We'd go, okay, this went well, this didn't go well. We'll try again tomorrow. And they were great. And the kids did great. And the band was successful. And they felt a part. And the kids know that they're staff members. And
Right.
it works. It's a win-win for everybody.
Sure.
So.
Well, you're obviously doing a lot with leadership with students or college students and whatnot. Really appreciate you being a part of the
Thank
program,
you.
and we'll have to get you on again soon to talk about some more stuff.
All right. Thank
All right.
you.
Dana
Great.
Pradervand from Oak Ridge High School Band.
Thank you.